Welcome back. I'm Mudar Pratap Singh. Joining us on NewsX. Our big focus this hour, the India-EU Free Trade Agreement is being hailed as the mother of all deals, a game-changing pact uniting nearly 2 billion people and 25% of global GDP. But why are people claiming this? Well, let's walk you through it. Point number one. Amidst Trump's aggressive tariffs and protectionism hitting Indian exports hard, the EU's 27 member countries are stepping up. This FTA slashes or eliminates tariffs on key Indian goods like garments, pharmaceuticals, steel and petroleum products. It restores lost market access, diversifies trade away from the US risks and also shields India's exporters with a massive, stable alternative market. That's why it's the mother of all deals, strategic resilience when the world needs it most. Point number two that stands out in this deal. Indian textiles are set to boom. With EU tariffs dropping significantly, our world-class knitwear, outerwear and trousers gain easier entry into Europe's huge consumer market. This boosts exports, creates lakhs of jobs in labor-intensive sectors and helps India capture higher market share from competitors. Combined with brands shifting sourcing here, it's a massive win for Make in India and our textile hubs. Point number three, unlike a potential US deal with heavy farm pressures, the EU FTA poses far less threat to Indian agriculture. India has firmly protected sensitive sectors like dairy and key crops. EU agricultural exports to India remain limited and targeted. No flood of subsidized goods are expected. This balanced approach safeguards our farmers while opening doors for our own agri exports where we excel. Smarter protection, bigger gains. Point number four, fears about wine, spirits or olive oil imports hurting Indian farmers were overblown. India is reducing high tariffs up to 150% on some, but volumes will stay niche. Premium products for urban consumers, not mass market staples. Our farmers focus on staple like grains, dairy and veggies untouched here. The deal protects our core agriculture while letting consumers enjoy variety without broad rural impact. Another important point to note here is that India is slashing car import tariffs from over 100% to around 40% with potential further cuts. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes and other EU brands become much more accessible for Indian buyers. This spurs competition, boosts the auto ecosystem, attracts investment in manufacturing and gives middle-class families premium options at lower prices. A clear consumer and industry win. And last but not the least, the shift is already happening. Reports show Marks & Spencer, Primark, Next and other major European apparel brands accelerating sourcing and negotiations with Indian suppliers, driven by the FTA momentum. Plus stability of alternatives like Bangladesh. This brings technology orders and jobs to our factories, strengthening supply chains, positioning India as a global apparel powerhouse. Joining us live, Ambassador Suresh Kumar Gul, former diplomat, Anjan Roy, ex-advisor FICCI is also live with us. Ravinder Sachdev, international affairs expert, joins us live. Pitali Nikore, economist, is also with us on the broadcast. Let's open this up. Let me bring you in here first, Ambassador Suresh Goyal. What makes this proposed India-EU FTA agreement so significant, so timely as well? And are you very hopeful that it will be inked, it will be finalized tomorrow?
One very basic thing, and I think it's a very elementary remark, which I'm sure everybody would be having in the mind or agreeing with it. It's simply because after the 50% tariff imposed by the USA, the way Indian exports have suffered, our strategy has been to diversify our markets. And the Indian-European Union FTA comes in a big way to achieve the diversification of the Indian markets, practically for all the products which are actually important for Indian export market. That's one very, very important reason that we are looking forward to it. And I think that is what is creating all the excitement. So one big step in terms of letting the world know that India can handle pressure from one country, I would say, by simple act of having options with other countries, diversification.
Anjan Roy, let me quickly rope you in here. What are the aspects of this free trade agreement that are all set to be a big boost for the Indian sectors who have been hit hard by the US tariffs? Which are the key Indian sectors which will stand to gain directly as a result of this FTA?
will lose will depend very much on the details of the free trade agreement. Free trade agreements are very complex, detailed structures. Actually, there is a misconception about free trade agreements. It is not as if two countries are agreeing to slash trade tariff and stepping up trade. It's a very detailed agreement where tariffs are reset along with various other requirements also, like domestic components requirement and all that. So depending on all these factors, the segments will gain or lose or whatever. But generally, India is getting hitched onto a very sophisticated, very large world-class market, and this will benefit. As long as you are competing, say, with Bangladesh or Pakistan or other countries, it keeps India tethered to a much lower level. Now we will be as befits India's economy and its economic status. We are getting linked with one of the most sophisticated markets, but there are problems also. For example, GSP preferences will be scrapped. This will have impact on the overall trade, but at the same time, we are entering a broader agreement for the entire economy. So that will have a macroeconomic impact also. There are certain sectors, of course, for example, European automobiles. This is a very strong segment area of European economy, but mainly confined to the German and some French motor car industries. But they will bring their sophisticated products here. That will improve the overall competition in the automobile sector. As we have seen earlier, the entry of foreign players has improved the entire character of the Indian market, Indian automobile sector, and their profile has increased immensely. We are a major, not major, but we are an exporter of motor cars. Maybe with volumes, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, other major producers, they will set up manufacturing base here.
Yes.
The advantage is that Europeans cannot compete with us on mass production or mass market because our costs are much lower than theirs. So we will gain eventually. And the advantage is that our technology will improve, our workers will gain much more. There will be much greater competition for labor resources also. And this agreement is opening up avenues for movement of natural persons. That is, people will be able to go and come. So we expect that a lot of Indian labor will go to Europe for work, as well as they will come back. So mobility will increase.
Okay, let me get you in here, Robinder Sachdev. Robinder Sachdev, now many Indian analysts are saying the same. Also, it's something that the EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said in a statement recently at Davos as well, that this is going to be the mother of all deals. Why is this agreement being described as that, Robinder?
I think Ambassador Goyal and Roy ji have laid out, but maybe I'll try and encapsulate. One is the sheer numbers of it, the scale of it in that sense, right? Europe is a $20 trillion economy. India is four and a half, five. Let's say together $25 billion, which is approximately 1/4 of the global GDP, right? The market size and the potential. Now, as of now, let's say we were to look purely from India's viewpoint, or let's look joint, okay? Between the two, the bilateral trade is around $200 billion or 210 or some such number. And in 5 to 6 years from this deal happening, that number is expected to go up to around $350 billion, right? By some estimates, and which for India specifically will generate about an additional 2 to 3 million jobs. Our exports total to Europe are about $130 billion or so. After this free trade agreement, our exports in the next 5, 6, or maybe 7 years are expected to be $200 billion. So that's a quantum jump here, our side as well as the European side. One more thing I would say, in addition to what was said at Davos, that this will be mother of all deals. I think this deal is happening at a very, very unique time in Europe's history. Our history also, but more so in Europe's history. Europe is right now in trauma after Davos. Okay, so what Europe is now looking at, in any case, this deal was to happen. Yes, in any case, the visit was due. It's just coming 2 days after they got that shock. It's a rude shock to Europeans and Europe. So this deal would probably, so the Europeans, I would think, are looking with even a fresher set of eyes at this deal. This, they would be looking, compared to what, when Ursula Leyen said 5 days ago at Davos, this will be mother of all deals. I would say that today, when she's looking at this deal and her visit in India, she would be having even a more fresher perspective as to how or what we can leverage more, because Europe now needs that the big time, support. It's wobbling. So I think that's a very key element here. One other thing I would point out is that it's not only the FTA, yes, but along with it, coming along the defense partnership. Okay, and that defense partnership is also very interesting, very critical. EU realizes now American support may withdraw, American weapons may not come, the security umbrella may or may not be there. They want to rapidly ramp up their defense industrial base and weapon programs. As of now, the EU spends around $400 billion on its total defense, right? Approximately. They've committed 5% within NATO in the coming years. On a $20 trillion economy, 5% means $1 trillion. So Europe has to spend and will want to spend from $400 billion going up to all the way $1 trillion on its defense in the next 5-10 years, but the sooner it may want. Now, therein, if there is more technology sharing, there is talk in this defense partnership of a supply chain cooperation resilience, which basically means that, right? So there is huge scope therein. And one last thing quickly, I'll stop here. Europe depends on American satellites for its complete reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, coordination functions. If tomorrow that cloud, that support of American intelligence is withdrawn, which America has done right now, by the way, and like Starlink did stop sharing with Ukraine, Europe
Yes.
needs a redundancy to that. ISRO is a very good partner to Europe for that.
Okay. Also, most of the sticking points have been ironed out, Mitali. The finalities will be given tomorrow. The final touches, of course. It's been a long years of course, mediation and back and forth between both sides before finally we're going to hopefully see this day tomorrow, Mitali. But the concerns of the agriculture sector, are those mostly addressed as well? Has a balancing act been struck?
Absolutely. So I think Uday, the first thing is that mostly agriculture is actually left out of the deal. What has been agreed is to focus a little bit more on the dairy subsectors. Fisheries is included, and fisheries is definitely an area where there were some sticking points. But again, the focus much more on processed foods, which comes more into manufacturing as opposed to raw agricultural products, has been actually, that's what I'm hearing. But of course, we'll know the details much more clearly tomorrow when these are announced. I think the overall approach that was taken to agriculture in the negotiations throughout this period was very pragmatic. It was decided and it was well understood, I think, by the European team that India's agricultural practices, India's current agricultural setup, is quite different from the rest of the world. There is a lot of dependency of people who are under the global poverty line. I mean, not even the Indian poverty, not just the Indian poverty line, but the global $1 or $2 a day poverty lines that are dependent on agriculture. And with that view, it was agreed that agriculture doesn't necessarily need to be a sticking point, and with that pragmatism, we moved ahead on manufacturing, on services, and all of these areas. I think if we look at this entire deal almost as global citizens, not only just from an Indian point of view, but just as global observers, today we can see that the EU has gone ahead and actually raced ahead, I would say, amongst all regions when it comes to signaling its interest in doing business with the rest of the world, sort of in the face of this pushback from the US, because EU has actually negotiated a trade deal with Latin America, which took them almost 30 years to close, but they have closed it just last week. They are also in conversation with Canada. They are also in conversation with China. They are in conversation with the UK. So they are actually on a trade deal spree in that sense, and it is wonderful that they are marketing this deal so much. I haven't seen any international organization go on Davos, put out reels on social media, marketing this entire deal as mother of all deals. If you see Ursula von der Leyen's personal Instagram account, it actually has a reel on this saying this is a mother of all deals. See, this kind of communication is also important for European businesses and for European communities, because what they are
Yes.
saying is this deal is not only for India but also for European businesses.
Okay. More breaking news, in fact, coming in this hour now. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, is currently hosting the European leaders, Ursula von der Leyen and Antony Costa, at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Visuals are coming in from the at-home reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. These are pictures that you can see on your screens from the at-home reception at Rashtrapati Bhavan. So, of course, the pomp and show of Republic Day celebrations continues. Ambassador Goel, the at-home reception currently on at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The EU, heads of state are, of course, being hosted by President Murmu once again at this stage also of the Republic Day celebrations. We saw, of course, the red carpet that was already rolled out to them on their arrival in India, and of course also today morning during the parade where they were chief guests, and now at home too.
Uday, why should that such be a big news? I mean, after if they're chief guest at the Republic Day parade, they would be at home in Rashtrapati Bhavan. That's a normal protocol. Therefore, yes, they would be there, and I'm sure that there will be a dinner after that at Rashtrapati Bhavan for them. All part of the normal protocol. I thought, Uday, you will ask me as to why all this is happening, and I was waiting to answer.
Yes.
That
What are the optics? What are the optics
Right.
of this all? Yeah.
No. Let me come to the basic of this. See, what has you need to think, why is European Union signing all these trade agreements with all different kinds of countries and the groups?
Exactly.
The point simply is that Trump may have done something or may have done nothing, but he has managed to unite the whole world against him. For the first time, you are seeing in this trade agreement between India and European Union has been hanging for how many years? Think about it. And suddenly, not after Davos, suddenly after Trump came in and Trump began to impose tariffs on all and sundry, suddenly there is this new energy in the European Union to sign this trade agreement. So therefore, the point I'm making here is it's all very good. But has the trade agreement been able to resolve the basic problems in trade between the European Union? I think not. As I think Anjan said, and repeated by Ravinder, the problem is the trade agreement can only say so much. The trick is in its implementation. And I've seen many trade agreements, including the one between India and ASEAN, which have not delivered, simply because the implementation causes more problems for India, not for ASEAN. And therefore, somehow, one way or the other, it doesn't get implemented. And therefore, simple point last time I gave it, agreement is all very, very good. I would really wait for it to be implemented. If after 3 years or before that, for some reason, Trump is not there anymore, would European Union have the same interest in the trade agreement as they have now? I leave the question.
Now, more breaking updates coming in. The President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, has thanked President Draupadi Murmu for hosting her at the Republic Day celebrations. So, of course, this is a social media post that has been put up. The EU chief has said, and I quote, "Thank you for hosting us on Republic Day. President, thank you very much for your warm welcome. Europe and India, the world's largest democracies, committed to working together to shape a new global order. This is why we are here to take our partnership to new heights." So, big statement being made by Ursula von der Leyen. In fact, Robinder Sachdev, she's even put in a bit of Hindi into this post on X as well.
No, certainly so. I'll continue my analogy of a person being in a trauma. Yeah, sure, all this was building up, but I'm saying last week was a trauma for Europe and European leaders. So whatever was happening right now, they are in a trauma stage. And I was looking up psychology. Apparently, what you need to do with somebody who's undergoing trauma is have psychological first aid, stay calm, let them feel the warmth. Okay. Now, and she's been herself saying that India, or they were talking about center of gravity and balance, etc. Yeah. So in these meetings, there's a warmth, there's a good camaraderie between our Indian and European delegations and our guests. So when they'll be meeting tomorrow or maybe today, the official meetings, our sentiment is that this is, yes, another thing in psychological first aid is acknowledge the problem. So, yes, this is a new world order or a new world matrix under construction. We are all facing these headwinds. And our intent always is a middle path balance. That's what Europe also wants, really wants. And this is not the era of wars, this is the era to live and let live. So that basic message, I think, would in any case be going in our diplomacy. Ambassador is smiling or would be doing it much better. But so that, reinforces our baseline. It gives them comfort right now. I'm approaching it from that perspective only. So all the optics, actually it's optopolitics which is playing out. It's geopolitics, and on top of it is layered optics. So what we are saying play out is optopolitics. So all the messaging that they're giving, the Europeans, is a very positive messaging. And I think they will be getting equally warm reciprocity from our...
Now coming back to some more modalities of the deal, Anjan Roy, now we are expecting that, of course, the European cars likely to get directly cheaper, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes. Also, we are already learning that Marks and Spencer's, next, other European brands expected to also shift to more sourcing from India.
Yeah, more cars will be coming, certainly. But we have a very big tariff element hidden in this. That is, although we are slashing tariff, our exchange rate has depreciated so much, and €1 is so costly now in terms of Indian rupee. The fear of competition is negligible, because these cars won't be in the mass market segment. It will remain only in the upper segments. So Indian car industry will be insulated otherwise. In case of other items also, there will be this foreign exchange rate tariff, which will be very much in favor of India, unless we are, of course, RBI will be very active on that, and our exchange rate is not likely to radically improve. So we have that cushion already available. And then we have to, of course, see how it works out in details. But basically what has been, what Ambassador said already, this is not just an economic instrument. This is a diplomatic instrument also. This is being thrown at the face of the Americans to show them that we have some other big trade partners apart from yourself. So this is the message. It is actually
and in fact, that's what Ursula von der Leyen said in a statement reportedly yesterday. She met with the External Affairs Minister, and she's reportedly said, Mithali, that there is an alternate way as well for the world. There is an alternate way for the world, and that can be showed by India and the EU.
Absolutely, Uday, and I think that is exactly what we are seeing here. And I also think that this deal is going to be really beneficial for the services sector. I know we have spoken much more about automobiles and food processing and textiles and gems and jewelry, but we must remember that even for Indian IT services, this is a very critical deal. So as for financial services, because we have been very dependent also on exports of IT services to the US. Now, this deal gives us access to a completely new market, and even for labor mobility of Indians to European markets. And they really need the Indian tech talent as well. This opens up many doors.
Appreciate you joining us, all our guests on this broadcast. We're getting more breaking news coming in that I'm quickly turning our focus to. The European Commission has also now opened a probe